And let me start by saying I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, and the bill sponsors that there are significant issues, competition issues facing the tech industry. And I agree with Senator Klobuchar that self-preferencing is one of them. Just like I agree with Senator Blumenthal that we need to enhance competition within the app ecosystem to ensure that consumers are empowered and benefit from quality, from innovation, and from choice. I represent California, home to the most populous and diverse state in the nation, population of 40 million. It's also home to the largest number of consumers compared to any other state in the nation, and consumers across the country rely on technology services to make our lives a little bit easier, to do our jobs, to connect with loved ones, and so much more. California is also home to many large, successful technology companies and even more startups and innovators and entrepreneurs. And please, colleagues, let's not forget the many workers who are employed directly or indirectly by the technology industry at all levels of the supply chain. So just as I've in the past considered tech bills as a member of the Los Angeles City Council, as a California state senator, now as a United States senator, this is my approach. I strive for policy that is inclusive and balanced of all these considerations, but let me make it clear. My first and foremost lens is how technology can help consumers. Now, having said that, I'm not yet convinced that this bill, as currently drafted, will actually provide the net benefit to consumers that we're seeking. I think we all agree that dominant tech firms that operate and compete on marketplaces can and do limit the ability of consumers to benefit from product innovation and choice. And one of the ways in which technology companies do this is by limiting the visibility and opportunity of smaller app developers and businesses. On the other hand, I respect that many consumers like the convenience of self-preferencing that enables them to type something into a search engine and receive answers to their queries right then and there without having to go through additional clicks or additional links. This is now a staple feature across search engines today. Now, this may be a simple example, but a lot of what has powered technological innovation over the last couple of decades has been the power and convenience of integrated services working together to the consumer's benefit. But given the broad language in this bill, here's a question. Is this committee choosing to trust regulators and courts to crack down on harmful self-preferencing practices while allowing activity that benefits consumers? I think we should approach this problem in a more measured manner to ensure we clearly identify and distinguish self-preferencing activity that hurts consumers from activity that actually helps consumers. I mean, the bill doesn't even define the term preferencing. For each covered platform, what constitutes that covered platform's operators' products, services, or lines of business? Or in the affirmative defenses section, what part of a covered platform constitutes core functionality? Important terms. Or even, how will the courts and litigants determine which services constitute a critical trading partner under this bill? If we want to crack down on anti-competitive behavior, and I do, and we agree exists, we need to be thoughtful about how we actually do that. And I'll just briefly echo some of the members that have raised the desire for a full committee hearing on this. I respect that there's been subcommittee hearings on the topics, I do, but I do think a full committee markup would best serve our consideration on this bill, and I'll recognize that this markup today is already a week earlier than was originally scheduled. Now, as several other committee members have already expressed, I share the concerns about the potential negative impact on consumer privacy and cybersecurity, so I won't go into details there. But more broadly, I do want to acknowledge that policymaking is often about incentives. While I'm excited by the prospect of ensuring consumers benefit from greater interoperability and consumer data portability, I'm equally concerned that consumer privacy and cybersecurity don't seem to be given equal consideration or priority in the bill as currently drafted. Colleagues, I know our constituents are banging down our doors, demanding a federal privacy law so we can put an end to abusive data collection and data laundering practices. They're demanding we do more to enhance the cybersecurity posture of industry. These values should be better reflected in the bill. Additionally, and this is particularly troubling, this bill may hamper the efforts of platforms to address the spread of hate speech and misinformation and disinformation efforts online that have caused so many recent problems for our democracy. For example, Section 3A3 on page 9 makes it illegal for covered platforms to discriminate in the application or enforcement of their terms of service among, quote, similarly situated business users, end quote. Now, this provision can be a gift to bad actors seeking to prevent platforms from blocking business users that peddle hate speech or, imagine, election disinformation. And here's how it would work. I'll explain it. Last year, in the wake of the January 6th insurrection, Parler was kicked out of Apple's App Store for violating its terms of service. If this bill had been law at the time, all a state attorney general would have to do is immediately threaten to file a lawsuit if, quote, other similarly situated business users, end quote, that were violating the terms of service were not also simultaneously kicked out of the App Store. Or worse, perhaps facing this new liability imposed by the language in this bill, Apple could have considered removing its terms of service mandating that apps have policies to deal with violence. And Parler could have stayed up even longer. Now, this morning, the nonprofit Free Press expressed this very same concern, as have others. And finally, I believe the bill includes an arbitrary definition of a covered platform. And again, other members have referenced this. It's no secret that this bill was designed to go after Facebook, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. But my question is, why are we concerned about just them in a competition bill that should be improving competition across industry? Why distinguish between Amazon Marketplace and Walmart Marketplace if the practices are comparable? A $10 billion company versus a $100 billion company, they both have economic significance. If the concern is that self-preferencing, the activity, the practice, is bad, when these few companies do it because of their dominance, then isn't it also bad when other large firms beyond these five adopt these same practices? So while I genuinely, trust me, I wholeheartedly embrace the premise of this bill in trying to rein in anti-competitive behavior by dominant tech firms, the bill, again, as currently drafted, doesn't quite completely hit the mark. But Mr. Chairman, sign me up for working to ensure that we address anti-competitive behavior in the tech sector, and sign me up for working with you and others to ensure that these large tech companies that play such a massive role in the daily lives of so many are well regulated by this committee and by active and well-funded regulatory agencies. Now, knowing that there's still a number of amendments to be considered and acted upon today, I'm not sure what my final vote will be today, but I do believe that regardless of the outcome, Self-preferencing is an issue that needs to be addressed. And certainly, I'll look for some significant changes in addressing the issues I've outlined this morning to be addressed before I would consider supporting this measure on the floor of the Senate.